There is a supernatural world that surrounds us, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. You hear stories about the supernatural and so much more right here on Supernatural Confrontations. I sat down with a woman by the name of Darlene. I think she had an angelic encounter. Was it her guardian angel? We'll probably never know, but I think you'll find this incredibly interesting, and we'll get into that. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Did you know Noble Gold's team of precious metal experts have helped thousands of worried investors like you to build and preserve wealth through times like these? Find out why gold, silver, and IRAs are the answer to inflation and financial contagion. Folks, I got to tell you, my wife and I invested some money in Noble Gold, and I'm glad we did, especially with what the economy's doing. Talk to a personal precious metal expert today. This month, they're gifting a free 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin with every qualified IRA above $20,000. Folks, you can't go wrong with Noble Gold. That's why my wifey and I invested with them. Call 877-646-5347 or find out more by visiting noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. There's the link on your screen, 877-646-5347. Give them a call today, folks. As always, I'll let Darlene just sort of take over, even though in this particular interview, because I had read her testimony, I reminded her of certain things and sort of led her through the interview. But was it a guardian angel, or is it just some guy that just happens to show up wherever she goes? Of course, I think it's the former. I think it was a guardian angel. Here's Darlene's testimony. So I'm here with Darlene, and she's been bold, adventurous, and daring enough to come on the record and tell us about a supernatural confrontation that she experienced while her mother was in the act of dying, of passing from this world into the next. So Darlene, tell us what happened, please.
There was a man that seemed to be constantly following, going the opposite direction of me for 4 days in the hospital that I was in there with my mom. He looked Native American. He had black hair, had it back in a ponytail, was wearing like janitor clothing. And I would run into him, and always he would be going one direction and I would be going the opposite. And I didn't really think too much of it the first day or two. And then they moved my mother from the first floor up to the second floor. So, you know, things were progressing and she was leaving us. And I had this urgency that I needed to go and get some music to play for her. And so as I was leaving the hospital, as I'm getting on the elevator, this same man is coming off the elevator. And it kind of shook me up a little bit because I kept seeing him all the time in that hospital. Everywhere I was, he was there going the opposite direction. So I go down to the car, I get the music, I come back up. And as I'm getting off the elevator on the second floor to see my mom, he's now getting back on the elevator. And I'm pretty shook up because I want to hurry and get to mom, but also I was pretty shook up because I keep seeing this man. So I stopped because I couldn't remember which way to go. And the man on the elevator tells me, turn right, she's on the left. So it was like he knew, you know, what was going on, and it was mom and everything. And so I go in the room, I take care
Let me
of
stop you right there. But you didn't see him when you were in the room. He didn't come into the room.
No.
And you never saw him like walk by the room that you remember. But yet he knew who you were and he knew where you wanted to go, and he gave you the heads up. So we're running out of time, believe it or not.
Okay.
About 9 minutes left. So I've heard the story, and that's why we do these sort of.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So you see this guy, you come in, you get the music, and the Holy Spirit had told you exactly what time your mom was going to pass. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I was in the room and I kept hearing, the Lord speaks to me from time to time, and I kept hearing him saying 9 o'clock, which a lot of times I ignore that. When I hear the voice the first time or two, I'm like, okay, because testing the spirits, that's what I do. I constantly test the spirits, but 3 times I hear 9 o'clock. So I tell my sister who's standing across on the other side of the bed, I tell my sister 9 o'clock. And she's like, what about 9 o'clock? And I said, well, I think that's when mom's going to pass. Well, this was like probably 2 hours before that happened. And she did die right at 9 o'clock. So, that happened. And then you want me to proceed on with
Well,
the,
you go to the nurse's station and then you ask the nurse, who is this guy?
right.
Tell us that.
Okay. Thank you for helping me because I'm so nervous. So yes, I go to the nurse's station because I needed some scissors. And I asked the nurse if she had ever seen this man that kept following, everywhere I was. And she said, no. She said, I've never seen him before. And he's wearing janitor clothes. So it looks like he works here, but she's never seen him. So what do you want me to go from there?
So, I mean, the bottom line is, it makes no sense who this guy really is.
No.
So now 15 years go by, you lose your job. You don't have to go into that, but you lose your,
Right.
now you're in Home Depot, and this is where it really takes a right turn, as it were. So you're in
Yeah.
the garden section, and tell us what happens.
Okay, so I'm in the garden section looking for something, and I hear this man behind me walking from my right to my left saying, what are you looking for? I thought it was an employee at Home Depot, and I turned around and it's this man with short black hair and he's wearing scrubs. And before I seen who he was, I'm telling him, oh, I'm looking for whatever it was I was looking for at the time. And then 2018, 3 years later.
Let me stop you right there. You're a nurse, so the fact that he's in scrubs is bizarre at Home Depot. In other words, he's not a Home Depot employee.
Right.
And you realize it's the same guy. The light bulb goes off. It's 15 years later, and you realize, oh my gosh, the same guy. Then
right.
another 3 years goes by. You're with your daughter once again at Home Depot, and there he is again.
In the garden section, yep.
In the garden section. This time, your daughter, when you asked her recently, do you remember that she has no recollection of who this guy is?
No.
So now we cut to, you're at church. It's COVID. So it's now we're into, 2019, 2020. So it's another, couple of years since the last time you've seen him. You're at this new church, you're with your husband, and tell us what happens. Tell us who comes walking down the aisle and sits right across from you.
So yeah, we just got finished with worshiping. And as I go to sit down, I go to put my Bible off to the right of me. And this same man sits down at the end of the pew, and we made eye contact. And the look on his face was so solemn, and he sits down, and it was like electricity going through me because I recognized him from Home Depot. Right. And I knew he was the man that I saw at the hospital in 2000.
Let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Had he aged at all?
No.
Okay. No. But he's got his hair cut, but he looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
So basically 20 years have passed, and this guy looks the same.
Yeah.
But he's dressed elegantly, you said. All in black with like a ski vest on. Okay, all that.
All black, yeah.
So the service ends, you get up, and you realize that he's praying.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to ask him who he was, and he was praying, so I didn't want to interrupt him. So as my husband and I were leaving the church, I turned around to get one more good look at him, and he still had his head bowed, and I heard the Lord say, he is praying for you. I don't know who he is. I pray that, and I pray that if he comes again, I'll have the guts, the courage to ask him who he is, because that, having that happen that many times and it's the same person.
It's pretty weird. I mean, it's definitely strange. Did you tell your husband any of this?
I did.
What did he say? He just dismissed it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Well,
pretty much what happens.
and that's okay. I mean, obviously something is going on here. The fact that the Holy Spirit tells you that he's praying for you, I find that's telling. Darlene, thanks so much for coming on the record. It's one of those stories that I have to put on the back burner because I'm not sure what we're looking at. I want to say that it was an angelic encounter because it's just too weird. I mean, the thing in the hospital, and they don't know who he is, but he knows who you are, and he knows who you're looking for. And then
Right.
the other two times, it's just, Paul tells us, and I keep saying this when people come on and talk about angelic encounters, people have entertained angels unawares. I think back about, the woman, what a great story, and she's going to a Bible study, and she comes back
Mhm.
lone, dark,
Yeah, yeah,
not a light on it.
yeah.
She's in the middle of nowhere and she runs out of gas. Knock on the
Yeah.
window. She looks over. There's a young man holding a 1 gallon
I
can.
watched that. Yeah,
Right? I mean, it's just like ding. You can't
yeah,
make this stuff up. And
yeah.
then pours the gas in, and she's got a full tank out of a 1 gallon can. No, the things like that don't happen.
Yeah.
Darlene, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. So there you go. We know from the guidebook of a supernatural, i.e., the Bible, that some of us have entertained angels unawares. What does that mean? That means when they appear, they can appear as a man or a woman. Metis monosi. I think it can go both ways, but I can't prove that. In all the instances I've ever heard from accounts from people, they appear as men. In the Bible, they appear as men. So I'm sticking with that, although I'm leaving the other, the idea that they could appear as a woman, I'm leaving that open. But I'm not leaning towards that because all the biblical accounts, they appear as men. So I find it incredibly interesting if this figure keeps popping up in her life, specifically at the hospital and then later at Home Depot. And you say, well, who cares, Home Depot? What's the deal here? Is it assurance of the angel sort of checking up on her in the same way that angels check up on us? And who knows what may or may not have been happening at Home Depot? We may never know. She may never know. Of course, I'm reading into that whole scenario with her. But I just find it incredibly interesting. I think that, and I lean strongly, as many of you know, towards what Paul says, that many of us have entertained angels unawares. Anyway, folks, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget you can check out all of our videos by going to streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net. Good news on number 4. It is visceral. We are going to put a warning on this film because it's not for anyone under 16, in my opinion. It's very, very intense, and the subject matter is very disturbing. And that's not hyperbole on my part. Wait till you see it. Tomorrow will be our last day on the edit. It's basically done. We've just got to go through it a few times and fine-tune some things, and off it goes to the duplicator. We will be doing a pre-sale. We will be doing all 4 videos, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the whole UFO series. You'll be able to get a 4-pack. More on that in the days to come, but I'll let you know when the pre-sale happens. And thank you so much for supporting what we do. And I realize some of you go, oh, LA, you're just trying to sell DVDs. Really? Is that all I'm trying to do here? So day after day, what do? Our mission statement is to expose the deception of the prince of the power of the air and to herald the return of the King Jesus. It's a full-time ministry. This is what I do daily. There's 5 shows a week. Tomorrow we'll be back with a very special On the Trail of a Nephilim. Wednesday, of course, is our weekly UFO update, followed by questions. Questions at lamarzulli.net. If you got a question, please shoot it in. And if you've got a supernatural encounter and you'd like to come on the record and talk about it, supernatural@lamarzulli.net. In both of these cases, please only send 1 email. You don't have to send 4 or 5. We'll get them. But the queue is long, and it takes us a while to get to you, but I promise we will get to you. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow with another edition of On the Trail of a Nephilim. This time we go to Peru, and we look at a mass graveyard, and the children have been sacrificed. I hope that whets your appetite. Unbelievable. Why does anyone do that? Why wake up on a Monday morning? But we'll get into that tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, there is a supernatural world that surrounds us, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. Thanks for watching. Something very dark and disturbing is happening. It is a global phenomenon that knows no boundaries. It adheres to no cultural mores, and the ones who are engaged in this nefarious activity are beyond reproach. People are being taken against their will. In the cover of darkness, in the dead of night, they are subjected to bizarre examinations that are often sexual in nature. These people are terrified, violated, confused, and with no place to turn to, as who would believe them? This is their story.
No heartbeat. Ultrasound, no baby. DNC, no fetal tissue. There's nothing. It was clean. He's like, ma'am, are you sure you were pregnant? I'm like, this is my doctor. You can call her. I was pregnant. He's like, you didn't bleed all night. You don't have, nothing came. I'm like, no, nothing came out of me.